let's batch sew some key fobs, wristlet lanyards, whatever you would like to call them. I am just setting up my machine here. I use double-sided tape from waywag.com, and then my key fobs, depending on the end cuts of the fabric, but normally I cut them 16 inches long by 2 inches wide. And then I like to use 1-inch nylon webbing from Amazon during the summer months because it helps the key fobs not slip on a sweaty wrist, because we all get them. So here I am just, again, this is batch sewing, so I'm adding all of the tape to the pieces. That way in the end I can just sew them up. So let's just add the tape to the center. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be on there. And if you do want the tape exactly in the center, just mark a line down the center of your fabric, vinyl, whatever you're using as an exterior, and then lay your tape on that. So let's just add the rest of the tape and we'll move on to the next step. So now we're going to go in and batch fold all of our exterior pieces where we are meeting the long sides to the center. There is no need to leave a gap as you are not folding this again. So you are going to meet the long edges to each other in the center, and then we're going to lay those on top of our interior piece, which is the 1-inch nylon, or, which I forgot to mention earlier, you can use waterproof canvas. That is another type of material I like to use on the inside of my key fobs, but I had a bunch of 1-inch end cuts of nylon webbing, so that is what I'm using. And again, we're just going to do this for all of our pieces, and then we'll move on to the next step, which should be sewing them up. I would like to add that you do not have to worry about folding in the ends of your fabric, as these will be enclosed in the hardware, but if you do have frays, please burn them off with a lighter. Webbing tends to fray if it's messed around too much, so if you saw, I did burn the edges just so I don't have anything sticking out from the hardware. So now we are going to sew each of these down the long edges, and then I go ahead and sew down the top just so I don't have to take off the thread. And I am just sewing them down at 1/8 of an inch on each of the long sides. And then we're going to do that for all of them, and then we'll move on to the final, which is adding the hardware. If you noticed, I did not trim these in between. I just maneuvered my pieces around so I wouldn't have to stop and trim my threads and keep, trimming threads in between each piece. So I just bulk sewed all of these down and just moved them around so I can work with them. And now I'm just trimming off any uneven ends, because that does happen because I do not iron my fabric beforehand, and they still come out great. So you can either iron them or don't, they will still come out flat and straight. So we're going to trim off all the threads and burn them with a lighter, and then we'll move on to adding the hardware. So again, because we're doing this in a batch style, production style, I'm going to go ahead and clip them all even. That way, again, we're doing this in a production style. So I'm going to match up the short ends and then clip them so they're all together so I can add the hardware really quick to each piece. I had just enough hardware pieces left in my stash with just the right colors that I wanted for these key fobs. So I'm just matching up the colors that I want for each style. That way I know I don't accidentally grab the wrong one. And then we're just going to make sure that the teeth on the back of your hardware go in first. And you want to push this up into the hardware as tight as you can. Use the tool that you can get from Amazon, or some pliers. But if you use pliers, please wrap your hardware with some type of fabric so you don't scratch it. And then I like to squeeze it down across the whole thing, and then I will do each side, so I know that the teeth in that hardware really caught that fabric all the way through, and it's really on there. So again, the thicker the fabric you use, the harder it is to make sure that it is all the way up there in that hardware, but you really want to make sure it is all the way up there. As you can see right here, I kind of didn't get it all the way, so I had to finesse it in there and then tighten it back down. And you do want to give it a slight tug when you finish. You'd hate for, if you sell these, to sell this to somebody, they use it one time and then the hardware comes flying off. So give it a slight tug just to make sure that the teeth really caught and that it's really clamped down. So we're gonna just finish these off. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any comments, leave them down below, or if you know a better way or easier way, please share with the group, and if you know a faster way to do them production style, because I do have a lot to make coming up for our new launch. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. Again, if you have any questions about any of the materials that I'm using, the hardware, the machine, anything at all, please leave them down below. I will respond as soon as I get them. Y'all have a great Father's Day weekend, and we will see y'all later. Deuces.